Welcome to Scoop. What it is Wednesday. We are grinding along almost to kick off the Hayes in the Barn. The two tough practices of the week are over. They have a cleanup on Thursday, travel Friday with a little walkthrough before they hit the plane. And then they get to have the foot hit the ball at 3:30 on CBS so that the football season is officially ready for the Ohio State Buckeyes to take the field and whoop on the Indiana Hoosiers. We're going to break that down and talk a little bit about what we've been hearing, so the game plan stuff. A lot of great content coming your way. So we appreciate you guys joining up with us. As always, thank you guys. We're so grateful for you guys tuning in. If you guys enjoy this content, please click that subscribe. Send this to your friends, family, coworkers, favorite Ohio State supporters. We appreciate all of you guys. We love having you guys in here. Get those questions fired up. We're going to ask some questions to the show. And if you enjoy this live content, please click that little bell. You'll get an alert every time we go live, which is going to be a lot this season because that is something that we are trying to do because we know you guys love it and we love kicking it with you guys and interacting and answering your questions. So thank you guys for always tuning in. And if you could shout out where you're from, I'd love to see where you guys are listening from. As always, put that down in the comments. I've seen Portsmouth. I've seen San Antonio, Texas. I've seen India. I've seen every part of Europe. I'd love to see where you guys are watching from. So thank you for doing that. With that being said, I'm going to bring in the great Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing great, man. I'm here without my shirt on, doing the podcast, kind of like Trey Henderson doing the interview today.
Oh my God!
Trey was kind of flexing for the beat. All those out of shape guys sitting there just looking at Trey, just kind of drooling, just wishing they could be Trey. And so as a tribute, I'm here. Eating some Cheetos and without my shirt on. So it's how's that for a visual?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's quite the juxtaposition when you put Trey versus those guys. But I think Trey is chomping at the bit. He's probably showed off the new bod, the new flex, the new this is that NFL. He's like, hey, I got to go hard for about 4 months and my life can change. So I think again, I love Trey. I think Trey is one of the most underrated guys we've ever had, one of the most underused guys we've ever had. Obviously, last year was kind of a lost year with the injuries, but his freshman year, man, that guy was on the Saquon. He was on that Saquon track of being, a top 5-ish, 10-ish type guy. Last year's the last season. I think he's kind of socking away all the acorns right now because I think it's going to be a big winner for him into the draft season. He'll run great. He's in great shape. I think he was trying to show that off a little bit today. So, hey, as long as he's feeling himself, I'm enjoying it because I think that he's about to have a huge year. I think his biggest opponent is probably Ryan Day. If Ryan Day doesn't want to give him the touches, and he's not going to hit the gaudy 1,500-yard plateau, but he's a threat to go to the crib every time he touches the ball. He did that in his first game against Minnesota a couple years ago. Played behind Master Teague, amongst others. And, he was lightning in a bottle when he actually finally got in there and got to play. So, again, we've had some very questionable running back rotations in the Tony Alford era, including Trey Sermon sitting for the entire season behind Master Teague, then finally playing and breaking Eddie George's rushing mark versus Northwestern. And then, Trey didn't get the work he needed. So it'll be very interesting. Nevada, what do you think the running back pecking order is going to look like going into Indiana? Obviously, we anticipate Trey being the starter, but Mayan's kind of right there. Mayan had 5 touchdowns last year in a game. What do you anticipate us trotting out? Maybe give us a percentage. Who gets what percentage of carries out of 100%?
It's probably going to be like 40% Trey, 30% Mayan, 20% Chip, 20% Dallin, and then is there 10% left over there for Evan Pryor and garbage time or whatever it is, or whatever. That might be 120%. I don't even know, but it's look, the Trey Henderson took so much garbage last year, and it was just awful watching how people treated him. And as you said, the running back rotations have been weird under Tony Alford. I mean, I remember taking so much abuse about, I was on the Trey Sermon train and was just banging that drum every week. And I just got so much garbage about that. And finally he goes in there and they finally give him the ball. And he has the greatest 2-game stretch in the history of Ohio State football. was just absolutely unbelievable, just a, unstoppable force. Look, I think Trey's is poised for a big year, and um, I think the uncertainty at quarterback this year is probably going to play to Trey's advantage because I think that Dave's going to be a little less reliant upon the run, or excuse me, on the pass. We've been going, under center more. I think he's going to be looking to kind of establish that power running game a little bit more, and I think that's going to benefit all the running backs, but especially Trey Henderson because he's a guy he has to get 20, 25 touches a game because he'll house one. If you give him that many, he will absolutely house one, probably two. But I think it starts this weekend. I think Ohio State really wants to get back to being a more balanced team, to being more of a power. And I think it starts this Saturday. And I think that Trey's poised to have a big game.
Yeah, I think that they have to reestablish the physicality that was a hallmark during the Tressel and Meyer eras. It's faded into obscurity under Ryan Day. We've become more of a finesse team, more of a Oklahoma-ish type team where first round quarterback, a lot of great prolific receivers, but can't stop a nosebleed. And we're not a tough outfit anymore. And I think that's something we need to get back to. And it all comes down to running the ball and stopping the run. That's what tough teams do. I think that gameplay style translates into the cold weather games in November, the playoffs. When we won our last national title in 2014, we were severely tough in terms of our offensive line guys like Jacoby Bourne, Elfline, Billy Price, Daryl Baldwin, Decker, Ezekiel ran as hard as anybody as I've ever seen in 2014. And then defensively, you had guys like Mike Bennett, Joey Bose, you had Darren Lee, you had guys that were just absolute war daddies, monsters on that side of the ball. So I think we need to get back to that. I think we've got the guys that can do it, but I think the mentality starts at the top. I mean, I think you play like you're coached, and Urban, when he was in his peak in 14, man, that was as good of a coaching job as ever happened in college football. You lose three quarterbacks, and your third guy actually leads you to the title. Beats Bama in the South. Very, very difficult to do. And I think that's something Ryan's got to get to. I think that running the ball will be critical early in the season to get the offensive line, get their confidence, get their sea legs, and then you go to that quarterback. His best friend is a good firm offensive line and running game. Because when you can get to 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3, because you're getting 5 to 7 on first down, it changes everything. It opens the whole playbook up. It makes it much easier to convert when you get into that 2nd and short, that 3rd and shortish type deal. You want to stay out of the 3rd and longs, take care of your guys. But Nevada, who in the perimeter of the offense are you looking forward to see the most? Again, we did a really fun thread on who's going to score the first touchdown for Ohio State. I kind of went on a limb, and I went with the heartfelt choice of Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate suffered just an almost insurmountable tragedy with his mother passing away with the shooting death in Chicago. I think it would be an amazing move if he somehow scored the first touchdown. I think he's going to play a lot. I think he's already our 3rd best receiver, and due to seniority, Julian Fleming will get the ceremonial start, but I think Carnell Tate takes that spot from him. Nevada, who do you think is going to score our first touchdown? And what do you want to see out of this offense? And what guys on the perimeter, outside of that running back room, are you looking forward to watching?
Well, let me just make one point and this is a point that you've made, and I just think it's a great point about running the ball. People have to remember you only have a finite amount of time to practice. So when you practice, when your offense goes out there and you practice, and you're primarily practicing passing, what ends up happening is it permeates everything. Your defensive line is going up against an offensive line that's going into passing sets, and you're not going up against a power rushing game as much as you would when you're going up against a running team. And so that, while you think about it only, you talk about being tough or toughness or running the ball and what effect it has on a team, people primarily think about the offense, but it affects both sides of the ball because, it's what you're practicing against as well as what you're playing, what you're doing in the game. And, for fun, I posted the 2015 national championship game, the game you and I had the pleasure of going to together against Oregon. There's like a 30-minute condensed version, which is kind of a really fun way to watch a football game. But a lot of little plays and the little turns and twists that I had forgotten. You just kind of go, oh
Hmm.
wow, man, I forgot that play that even happened. But the game plan for Ohio State that day was elegantly simple. I think we ran like 4 plays the whole game, and we were just tougher than Oregon. And they had no answer for Zeke. They had a couple of inopportune drops early on that kind of kept us in the game because they were starting to run away from us a little bit there early on,
Hmm.
and then Cardale tried. He had some bad turnovers to try to keep them in the game. But it was Cardale running and Zeke running, and that was basically it. We had a few passes here that you're kind of sprinkled in there. But, when you have that toughness on the offensive side, it extends to your defensive side as well. So that's my first point. As for who's going to score the first touchdown, I'm going to go with Cade Stover. I think we're going to get it down around the goal line. And I think, last year, I think we had started to see, the first few weeks, the tight end utilization was unlike anything we'd ever seen. We were tracking to have the tight end go double digit touchdowns receiving, and it kind of tapered off there at the end. But I think we're going to get back to that. I think Day and Hartline, even though Hartline's not calling the plays, kudos to you. I thought Hartline would definitely be calling the plays. You said you thought that Day would pull that back. I didn't think there was any way that would happen. It happened. But I think that they're going to be going to the tight end around the goal line. So I'm going to say Cade Stover with the first touchdown of the season for Ohio State. In a game that's close for a half, and then we pull away and wallop Indiana down the stretch. But I think on the road in the Big Ten's never easy. I don't care who you're playing against, and I think it's going to be a solid effort by both sides of the ball. And we're going to have a big win on Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that we'll have a huge win. I think that we've got guys that are hungry. I think this defense is tired of, frankly, being whipped since the Georgia game. I mean, all these guys on defense have heard about is Georgia and Michigan. That's it. I mean, against Indiana and all the other teams they played before that, they were lights out. They played fantastic. But, in the two matchup games, as Jim Knowles likes to call them, we got give up 40 plus points, which is unacceptable no matter what the circumstances. And I think this defense is going to be much better again because I think a lot of the guys that played last year who were upperclassmen, who were older guys, weren't very good. They weren't drafted. They got cut on cut day. They're practice squad type guys. Mike Hall is not a practice squad guy. He's going to be a top first or second round ish type pick once he works out. Great chance he declares after this year. He's hungry. He's got a young baby to support, which again, I know that's a little personal, but I know how these guys are motivated. So, a little bit different when you got an out the feed and you got to go get paid in the league and you want to make that jump. And again, it's real. I say it probably, I feel like it's every other podcast. When these guys hit year 3 and they're draft eligible, it's go time. It is time to eat spinach and put down the liquor and put down the late nights and get some sleep and do a little bit more cardio, get your body tightened up, because now it's a chance where you can go and actually make real money. You can go get paid. You're not doing these little NIL deals. So you can actually go be a top. CJ Stroud got 28 million. I mean, Paris, 24 million, whatever it was. Or I think Paris got 28 and CJ got almost 40 million. It's like those guys see that, and those guys are third year guys. So there's just like this little switch that gets hit. But yeah, I'm really excited to see Jack, JT, Mike Hall. They're not behind Zach Harris. They're not behind Jerron Cage or Tron Vincent or all these guys that were nice players but not super impactful. See what they do. I mean, I think it's going to be the story of the season will be the pressure from the front four and the turnovers from the back end. I think that's something that were frankly disappointing last year. And this year, I think they could be massive assets. Nevada, what are some things that you would like to see enhanced as we go into this season? I mentioned 2 areas: pass rush, turning the football over on defense. But across the team, what are a couple of things you want to see get enhanced going forward?
Well, I think one of the things, and we had a nugget today on the board talking about game planning for Indiana and kind of the plan for Ohio State. But one of the things that I know is part of the game plan that I know that we're going to see, but that I want to see for the season is a better use of tempo by Ohio State offensively. I think Ohio State has kind of shown, when they go fast, we generally do better. The problem is Ryan Day doesn't like him to go fast because then Ryan Day doesn't get a chance to look at the play and call the play and get him into what sometimes the perfect play. And I think sometimes perfect can be the enemy of good enough. And I think for Ohio State, in this game, I think they want to go faster. I think it negates any of the crowd that there is. It negates some of the exotic things that the defense can do. Kind of puts them in a difficult situation in terms of substituting, blitzing, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to see Ohio State use tempo more, because when we've used tempo, we've been so difficult to stop. And we've got so many amazing athletes on every position. I mean, we could spend an entire podcast talking about the wide receiver room or the running back room or the tight end room. Or, I mean, we have so many weapons that all you got to do is get one of those guys in any kind of space with any kind of a mismatch, and it's 6 points. And I think one of the way to do that is via the use of tempo. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for it to happen, and I'm looking for Ohio State to do it and change the tempo up. Go fast, go slow, go to the line, show the fast look, and then back it off. But don't just always do the same thing where you go up, you do the thing, you look to the sideline for Ryan to sit there and call the play. Um, it's one of my things that I hate. I hate when I feel like a coach is trying to kind of I don't know if it's overthink it or overmanage it or whatever it is, but I think that we can use better use of tempo on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, it's going to. I mean, for me, I want to see the young guns. I want to see the C.J. Hicks. I want to see Davison. I want to see Sonny Styles. I want to see our athleticism shine through, and it's on Knowles to put him in positions to do that, and that's why he gets paid the $2 million. That's why he's the $2 million man, is to put him in positions to do that. This is a great game to show it against Indiana. Indiana, bringing out a quarterback out there who's going to breaking it in. Hey, good time to bring it in against them. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can create some turnovers and cut down on some of the big plays. And those would be my two areas of emphasis for Ohio State. And hopefully we see them start this Saturday.
Yeah, I think tempo is going to be a big part of the game plan. I think that when you are bringing in a new center, it's easy to go tempo because you make a call, you go with it. There's no adjusting it. There's no changing it. It's just like point, go, nice, easy. And again, I think that it helps the offensive line because it's kind of mindless. It's a lot easier. You're calling, when you go tempo, if it's like an RPO or something where you can make a check, I mean, you're calling a lot of stretch, which is like, basically like a zone-ish type play. And, guys just kind of rock into their gaps and come off the ball and do their thing. And there's not a lot of adjustments. And the biggest thing with tempo, if you're good at it and you actually do go fast, is that Indiana is going to blitz the absolute crap out of us this week. I mean, that's what they did last year. It's their only chance. They know that they're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, maybe one of the worst teams in the entire country. And they're going to be blitzing us. So if you go tempo and you're spread out in three wides, the defense can't do much disguising. They have to show their hand, because if they don't show their hand, they're never going to get there. They're never going to get home in a tempo-style offense because, you can't time it on the fake clap or the second clap or the look back or, some of the other variations of how you run an offense at Ohio State. So, again, if I'm Carson Hinsman and I have any say in the offense, which he probably doesn't, but if I got to justify, say, hey, let's go tempo, it'll help me, it'll help, our left tackle, because our left tackle had 17 penalties last year. So that's something that's a major issue. People are really worried about that. And, if you go fast and you're on the first sound, you're not going to get those penalties. You're not going to get the procedure penalties, the false starts, the things that could potentially really sting a guy like Josh Simmons. Because Josh, he's had issues with the yips. And again, it's first game. He's playing in a pretty casual environment. Bloomington's not a loud place to play because most of the people there are Ohio State fans. But you don't want that kid to hit the two false starts and get the yips and then get slaughtered online by our fan base because he's JB Shugarts 2.0. So, but I'm excited to see how Ryan manages the quarterbacks. If it's more of a set number of drives before he puts in Devin Brown versus it being, I guess, a feel thing. Because it'll be interesting. Like, we'll be watching and say, okay, here comes the fourth drive. Okay, Devin's in. And if Kyle goes 3 for 3 with 3 touchdowns, 21 points on the board, and then it's like everyone switch quarterbacks, and then Devin stinks for 3 drives, like, the competition will probably be over. But it's going to be fascinating. Nevada, how early do you think Devin Brown gets into the game on Saturday?
I think it's early. I think I think that look, I know that Ryan Day has told the quarterbacks that it's a toss up. It's a 50-50 type of proposition. McCord is taking the first snaps, but this is not a Kyle McCord is one and Devin, you're the backup, and go get the clipboard and a thing of nachos and watch Kyle do his thing, and we'll try to get you in at the end to take a knee. This is a competition. And so I think it's going to be quick. I mean, I think the only one who really knows that is Ryan Day. But if I had my guess, I'd say it won't be more than 2 or 3 series until we see Devin Brown. And then I think Devin will get a couple. I would imagine it goes something like 2-2-2 or 3-3-3 or something like that. But I think it's going to be early. I think it's going to be often. I don't think it's not going to be alternating series, because I think that's always a little bit weird. But in a lot of some of it's going to have to do with the game flow. But this is absolutely a competition, and Ryan Day wants to see what these guys can do, in their chance on the competition under like circumstances, game in doubt with the ones playing against the ones from Indiana. So Ryan's looking for data too, and the only way you can get data from that is to have meaningful snaps, and that means first half snaps against a team like Indiana when the game matters, when the game's still in doubt, and I think we'll see both of them early.
Yeah, I think Devin's going to probably go in, I'd say, either the third or the fourth drive. I think that, you want to see him in competitive situations. You don't want to see him as blowout time when you put anybody out there. You want to see him when he's running the offense. He's with the first team. Again, like all of camp, I'm sure that Ryan Day and Corey Dennis and Todd Finch were all organizing the reps to make sure that they both got equal reps with the first offensive line, the first group of skill guys, which is Marvin and Mecca. Trey, versus just being on the second line. Because, if with the way they chart everything and the way they have analytics for everything now, you have to kind of measure, if you're being fair, okay, who is he throwing to? Was he with the twos or the ones? Okay, he's with the twos. He took a sack. Okay, the left tackle got beat. Josh Simmons wouldn't have got beat there or whatever. I think that's something that's real critical, and people don't talk enough about that. It's like, if you have Devin Brown having a fantastic day, but he's going against the threes, and Kyle McCord is going against Jack Story and JT2 Malolow and getting harassed the whole game. There are different levels to those things. So I think that by the fourth series, Devin will get a couple in, and then it's just going to be who plays the best into halftime. And I think at halftime they'll make a decision who starts the half, and then just roll with it. And I think that going into assuming that it's equal and one guy doesn't throw 3 picks and the other guy throws 5 touchdowns, like, I think this is going to work into Youngstown State and Western Kentucky, into Notre Dame. I think this competition has another 3 weeks to go. Nevada, Jim Knowles did not name a starting safety opposite Lathan Ransom, basically like kind of the free safety spot. Does that concern you? He mentioned Jihad Carter, Josh Proctor, Malik Hartford, Sonny Styles could be back there if they put someone else at nickel, if they put a corner at nickel. Does that bug you that he's going to go through he went through practice yesterday, practice today. He likely has a starter in mind, but does that bug you at all?
No, here's what you got. You've got Jihad Carter, who's been terrific, but he's been nicked up. And so you've got kind of an injury situation with him. You've got Josh, who's been inconsistent. You've got Malik, who's just been spectacular, but he's a freshman. And then you've got Sonny, who's going to be situational. So I think it's really just going to depend on his feel, kind of see how the game goes. And I think it's kind of irrelevant because they're going to be showing so many different looks out there and showing so many different sets with the, as you mentioned, with Sonny Styles, with the 2 linebackers, with the 3 linebackers, with the 5 with the 5 corners, with the 4 corners. I mean, I think it's going to be a number of different looks, and I think we're going to see it all. But I think all those guys are going to play. But for my money, Jihad Carter's really good. Malik Hartford, as we've been talking about all fall, has been spectacular. But again, he's a freshman, and I want to see it in a game because being great in practice, and he's been great, is not the same as being great in a game. But he's somebody to watch out for because he is a fast riser, a guy who's been really turning heads in fall camp, and somebody who could really turn out to be a banger and a heck of a player at Ohio State. So no, it's like I said, but I think it's gonna be situational. So I think we're gonna see them all out there and in all sorts of different situations. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Is Malik Hartford the freshman that you're the most excited about right now?
Well, I mean, Carnell Tate,
No.
Brandon Innes, but Malik just because he kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, he
No.
was underrated, a guy that really people weren't talking about as being anything, and he may end up being the star of the class. And that's why
Yeah.
I always say this to people. I'm like, be excited about every commitment because you just never know. And be like, oh, Nevada, you're just being a homer, and oh, Nevada, this guy's a 3-star or whatever. But look, this guy might end up being the best player in the entire recruiting class. And he was, if you were doing a fantasy draft for the recruiting class, he might have been the last guy taken, or certainly near the bottom. But
Hmm.
he's a heck of a football player, and boy, just based upon practice, production so far this fall, it's got to be right up at the top. He's really special kid, and you guys will see it on Saturday because he's going to play.
Yeah, and his production in high school is through the roof, and I think that guys like this get hampered if they don't play in Georgia or Texas or St. Thomas Aquinas and in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Like I think that people sometimes get a little jaded when when they watch film and it's an Ohio kid dominating versus Ohio kids in high school, but this kid is not scared of anything. He's a ruthless hitter. He probably had the hardest hit I saw last year. That is not on this tape, but he's an absolute monster. Super excited to see him get back there. And the one thing I know, and again, Jim Knowles was probably fudging this when he said that he didn't know who would start on Saturday and that they were going to get through the Tuesday and Wednesday practice. But I think that this is a spot that he could take potentially. If it's him, Jihad Carter, Josh Proctor. Obviously, Josh Proctor got benched very early in the year. It was like after the first drive, never played again, other than a little bit versus Georgia and some mop up time. And Jihad Carter, who's been out for a lot of camp, this kid. I mean, he's ripe for the picking in terms of taking the spot, and I'm sure that he's going to get in during competitive snaps on Saturday, which will be really exciting to see. Because again, I love young DBs. Mike Doss when he was a freshman made a huge impact, real early on, 99, and again, I just love watching some of this. Oh, we got a super chat. Okay. All right, Nevada, we got a super chat. Appreciate you, Phil. Our super chats always get answered immediately. So if you guys ever have a question that you're just dying to know, send us that super chat. Okay, from Phil. Probably mentioned already, but what do you think the chances are this year that fixes all the future defensive recruiting misses? I'm so excited to see your two of the Knowles experience. Nevada, do you want to take this first, or you want me to take a stab at it?
Well, I'll let you take a stab at it, but I mean, I'll just say I don't think the recruiting misses that we've had have been a subject. I mean, if I'm reading the question right, to the defensive scheme or what's going on, and I think a little bit is made too much of people. The defensive players want to see the scheme, want to see the results on the field, and then they'll jump on it. I think there's reasons why we've missed on some players, but yes, do I think that Knowles having a dominant defense is going to help in terms of the defense? Yeah, but I think the best thing is going to be when they can get James Laurinaitis on the recruiting trail full time, and I think that'll help. But I'll lateral to you, and then you can circle back to me on this one.
Yeah, I think that we've had some defensive misses. Some of them are strange. Obviously, like Dylan Stewart to South Carolina when it's down to us in South Carolina. That one, it reeks of a big NIL deal coming and swooping him away. Yeah, but again, if you switch it and you go a little more positive, I mean, we've gotten Justin Scott and Edric Houston, 2 5 stars. We've got Peyton Pierce. We have some really nice commits to us. Bryce, Aaron. We got 2 great corners, 2 lockdown corners. I actually think that the defensively, we've missed on guys. Mateo Uiagalelei stung. He obviously got a bag from Oregon, a big NIL deal. Keon Keeley stung, losing him to Bama. But when you lose a kid to Oregon, I mean, they've got a better NIL program than us. Alabama. If you lose to Alabama, I never sweat when we lose someone to Alabama because Alabama is like unbelievably good at what they do. So, do I want to lose to them? No, but it's a different feeling when you lose to Bama versus like South Carolina, because Bama is like, it's like if you lose in a boxing match to Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali in his prime, it's not, I don't think people should go around and say, "Oh, you suck, you're terrible." I'm like, no, I get knocked out by the greatest heavyweight who ever lived, one of the two or three or whatever. So, but I think that the year two of the Knowles experience is going to be really good because we're really veteran. I mean, you look at our front seven. We got a lot of guys that played a lot of football. A lot of guys playing with a lot of confidence. A lot of guys that have chips on their shoulders. Frankly, after those last two games, giving up 80 points between two games, like not good. And again, when you stink in the city of Columbus and in the state of Ohio, people let you know when you stink. I've been around this town when we've lost bowl games, lost to Florida in the national championship game. It is not fun, and you can't wait to get to the opener the next year. You can't wait to get a crack at somebody to take out all of your aggression and take out all of the kind of what the naysayers have said to you. Nevada, I'll circle back to you. In terms of defensive recruiting misses, like I know that Larry Johnson gets a lot of grief for missing on some great defensive ends, but I really like where this recruiting class is, and I think we've got some absolute studs if we can hang on to them through signing day.
Yeah, no, we definitely had some great hits and some weird misses. Lightfoot, the Miami thing,
So
Kingston, the book of Hebrews. I mean, we've had some weird things. So yeah, I think all in all, though, I think that you know I think we got to be pretty pleased with where we're at. Although it could be better, and I don't think we're done yet. I think there could be some flips here at the end, and some of the guys that come online, and so I think that we're going to be okay defensively. But I was thinking about one of the things you were talking about in these recruiting battles, and you were talking about recruiting battles with South Carolina, recruiting battles with Georgia, recruiting battles with Alabama, and the one thing that's really weird anymore is we don't really have any recruiting battles with Michigan anymore. Like when I was growing up, it was like Charles Woodson, Desmond Howard, Mario Manningham, Prescott Burgess. I mean, like you just go down the list. Kyle Kalis, just players, and sometimes they hurt us, sometimes they didn't hurt us, or whatever. But there was always like battles. Like when's the last? I guess this year we had like a little mini drama with with the kid from the cornerback from Dayton with Aaron Scott. But like that didn't turn out to be anything. Like, when's the last time we've lost a kid to Michigan that we offered and we wanted?
I
It's been a long time.
I mean, it's a total change from where it was 20 years ago. I mean, we used to
Yeah.
lose guys that we wanted all the time, and now it doesn't really happen. I mean, I think there's a lot of kids that kind of play both sides. Like they'll go up there and visit and wear the jersey and have the coaches call and have Charles Woodson post on Twitter and whatever. But I just, in terms of guys that we flat out wanted, not many. I mean, and the thing is, a lot of the guys that we wanted didn't pan out. I mean, I remember Ed Warner and I, when we were recruiting, we lost a bunch of kids that committed to Michigan. They were O-linemen, and they all ended up stinking. None of them ever did anything. So, again, you always kind of look at the totality of it. Like, I mean, nobody in the universe had Pat Elflein ranked ahead of Kyle Kalis. Nobody, except for me and Ed. Me and Ed and I liked Kalis. I know Kyle very well. He's a friend of mine, but Pat Elflein's still in the league. He just got put on IR, so he's getting $700,000 to not play this year, and he's on year 7 or 8 or whatever it is. So, I just sometimes you got to see how it shakes out, see who gets developed, who turns into what. And that's the thing that's beautiful about recruiting is like, you get to go pick your players and then you get to develop them. And if they don't pan out, it's on the coach, period. I mean, the coach has got to turn all these guys into diamonds, and not everybody can be a diamond, but you need enough of them to be competitive and to win. So, well, we're going to wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final thoughts as we get through Wednesday of Indiana week?
Well, just knock on wood, we've got through the last really hard practice prep in Indiana. No serious injuries, and that's always really good news. Got a great looking, depth chart. Got a lot of depth, and we're at full strength, no excuses, ready to go against Indiana. Ready, like I said, going to have a light day on Thursday and fly out on Friday and go get it done. But to this point in the season, knock on wood, nothing bad's happened yet. Let's go get them on Saturday.
Yep, super excited about it. Well, We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, as always, to BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, if you guys love these live shows, I see a lot of the regulars in here. Appreciate you guys as always. See Troy, see RJ, see Duke, see Brass Tacks. All you guys. Appreciate you guys always being here. Jesse, thank you guys for being in here. If you want the best companion to your Ohio State football experience, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our message board is absolutely crazy right now. Nonstop topics, nonstop dissertation. Great people on that site. Love being on there. I'm going to jump on the board right after this. As always, it's just such a fun time. Great way to chill as you're watching your favorite TV show, be on the couch, surfing the message board, talking to a lot of great Ohio State football fans. So with that being said, as always, we're very thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.